but average price for a single family in Windsor at the peak was around 740,000. That was back in February 2022. At our dip, which was December, we went down to 470, which is almost a 300K drop. Yeah. And then we're making our way back up. Now we're around 600,000. But the new rate hike has been announced. What was it, like a week or two ago? And since that, I'm seeing some patterns pick up in the market. Starter homes are still hot right now. The multifamilies have definitely slowed down. It's hard to get a good idea in 1 to 2 weeks, but I'm starting to see signs of a bit of a slowdown, and people they're still looking for more affordable housing. I mean, anything under 500,000 is still pretty hot over here.
Welcome back to the Very Real Estate Effect podcast, a show dedicated to real estate investing right here in Quebec. And yet today we have a good friend from Ontario. I'd like to welcome Milena Simsic to the show. How are you doing?
We're good. Thank you for having me on, Axel.
So before we jump into your story, I just want a few things. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you for your continued support. As usual, please share this episode with a friend who you feel could benefit from this conversation. And we're always looking for interesting topics and guests for the podcast. So if there's anyone you'd like to suggest, please reach out to me and I'll make sure to get back to you as soon as possible. And also, follow us on social media. I keep repeating it. Axel on Instagram or Real Estate Effect on Facebook. Now, Milena, you are the owner, founder of Win Social Realty. It's a brokerage firm based in Windsor, Ontario. You have a good knowledge of the local market. And coming here from Quebec, it's really interesting to hear about Ontario because we keep hearing about how crazy it is over there. So can you kind of tell us, like, what do you see on the market right now?
It's been a roller coaster the past year and a half. So yeah, to say the least. There's a lot of developments happening in Ontario for multifamily investors at the moment. So I specialize in Windsor. I've seen like the very peak of the market and then the very dip, and now we're going through this substantial, housing crisis and potential interest rate hikes coming up. We got 4 more meetings this year for the rate hikes, and I've lived through every single rate hike the past year and a half, and it's been very interesting to see, like, making offers every day for my clients on the investor and single family side, and seeing the trends in the market. So yeah, Ontario is it's crazy, definitely crazy. I don't know how you're doing over there in Quebec.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty Canada-wide. The shortage of housing, the all the immigrants that are coming in that we desperately need, and I'm one of them. So I will always stand and defend immigrants. And yeah, we're not building enough, and we've had several, as you mentioned, interest rate hikes, which makes the cost of borrowing higher, which makes it more difficult for investors and for developers to build and add new housing. Therefore, artificially increasing the rents of the current inventory that we have. So luckily, the CMHC MLI program from the CMHC has been helpful. But yeah, it's a little crazy here in Quebec. And that's the thing, like Ontario is the most populated province in the country. Windsor is further south. Do you have a lot of overflow from people moving in from Toronto?
Oh yeah, I think like about 60% of our clientele is from the GTA area. I got a social media following here, so when people are looking out of town into the Windsor market, I'm one of the first people to pop up. So it's just naturally I've been working with a lot of out of town people. So yeah, we've been getting a lot of people from the GTA who can't afford a home over there looking in Windsor because we're still the cheapest large city in all of Ontario. And we got, everything you need over here. And if you want the benefits of a large city, we got Detroit right across the border and it's like 20 minutes to get there. So yeah, lots of overflow coming in here. And the interesting thing is with the rate hikes, people's affordability has gone down. So they start, and because of that, they do start looking into cheaper markets. So I've had a few clients personally that literally got outpriced in their market because of the rate hikes
Yeah.
and came to Windsor.
So I understand you have knowledge in both the single family and on multifamily. Just to get a ballpark idea, like on the multifamily, like what's currently an average or normal price per door for, let's say, a six or an eightplex?
Um, it really depends. Like if it's in complete disrepair, full gut job, it can get as low as 100K. If it's turnkey, it could get as high as 300. So
Yeah.
it's a range. I would probably for the smaller units, it's harder to say because it attracts a lot more people. So like when you're still in the residential side, like the 4 units and under, and you could still get residential mortgages on 4 to 6, the prices per door are a lot higher than if you get into the larger multifamilies here. So,
Mhm.
like a turnkey duplex, people can see it as a single family home or a house hack, and they'd be willing to pay like 350,000 a door for these units. So, yeah,
Okay.
it really depends.
So 700K for a newly renovated duplex.
I'd say like a new build
Yeah.
in a good
Yeah.
area, like that's the higher end. A newly renovated duplex, you can get away with maybe around the 550 mark for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's actually fairly similar to what we're seeing in Montreal right now. That's kind of reassuring. And you said there's a lot happening on the multifamily and for developers. What's going on?
Yeah, so um with the rate hikes, I do see a lot of investors struggling, especially the ones that have bought at the peak of the market. So I have seen more power of sales popping up. Like I was literally looking at this one multifamily this morning where they were trying to basically get their money back from when they bought at the peak, and I see a new listing pop up for 200K less than what it was originally posted at, and it turns out the lender like put it up for sale there. So yeah, I'm seeing more of that happen, which which is, a little bit concerning. Um,
But
but
has it been repossessed by the bank?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
basically. Yeah.
okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of people missing their payments on multifamilies, like, when they bought at the peak, like the numbers were ridiculous. The average price, like just for reference, it's not average price of multifamily, but average price for a single family in Windsor at the peak was around 740,000. That was back in February 2022. At our dip, which was December, we went down to 470, which is almost a 300K
Wow.
drop. Yeah. And then we're making our way back up. Now we're around 600,000. But the new rate hike has been announced. What was it, like a week or two ago?
Mhm.
And since that, I'm seeing some patterns pick up in the market. Starter homes are still hot right now. The multifamilies have definitely slowed down. It's hard to get, a good idea in 1 to 2 weeks, but I'm starting to see signs of a bit of a slowdown and people they're still looking for more affordable housing. I mean, anything under 500,000 is still pretty hot over here.
Okay. And are there a lot of new developments? Because over the last, like, I was going to say year and a half or 2 years in Quebec, there's been a big shift actually to new builds. Are you experiencing the same type of market trend?
Um, for for multifamilies, you don't see it too often. We do have some projects in like being talked about, but they're not going to be completed or even started within the next few years for condos. For single families, like we do have a lot of luxury new builds, and they tend to sit on market for a while. So a lot of these new builds came out last year and they were bought last year. And what I saw is a lot of investors buying these up and for a high price, and now they're trying to sell it again, but the prices dropped significantly. So in terms of builds, we did have a lot in 2022 for the single family space, but they were mostly on the luxury end. There's not many in like that, the mid-range, the 500s there for
Mhm.
condos and that sort of thing. So we do have that kind of missing middle over here in Windsor.
Yeah. Okay, so really going from the single family to then much larger high rises, and you don't have the 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 unit size buildings.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, yeah, in terms of like other developments over here going on, we have a lot of jobs coming here soon. I'm sure like everybody's heard of the electric vehicle battery plant coming to Windsor. So if that actually makes its way through next year, that's going to add 2,500 new jobs. We got an Amazon warehouse coming out next year too. That's like 400 new jobs. And now we have like the largest cable suspension bridge in all of North America, the Gordie Howe Bridge coming, and that's opening up next year. So we're going to have the strongest cross-border connection in all of North America. So I think there's going to be a lot more people moving here. I'm already seeing signs of Airbnbs picking up here from, my investors that are doing that here. So,
Mhm.
and a lot of them are short-term like workers that are working cross-border or they're working at the hospitals here. So, yeah, I think demand in Windsor, especially for starter homes and that missing middle, is going to skyrocket within the next 2 years for sure.
Yeah. And have you heard of any activities, incentives from the city and from the province? Because all those jobs coming in, they must be prepared to provide this new housing. What are they doing?
Yeah, so in terms of like incentives provided, there there are some around the university area right now to convert commercial units to residential. Same with downtown. They are encouraging development over there, so they'll pay you back your property tax increases if you develop in those areas. And yeah, there's a few incentives, but in terms of like development charges. I know Windsor can get pretty expensive for that. I don't develop myself, so I'm not entirely sure like how
How
much, but
hard? Yeah.
yeah, how hard because I don't do it myself, but I just, I hear things from other investors over here.
And now, kind of shifting gear, like more towards your personal experience. So, as a broker, you have a lot of people coming into town, looking for real estate. What would be a few pieces of advice you would give to someone moving in, looking for a good realtor to secure a property quickly?
Yeah, it depends what they're looking for. So if they're an investor, for sure get an investor focused realtor that invests in the city themselves. I know a lot of people are kind of scared to invest with a realtor that also buys in the city, but most of the time your criteria is entirely different. Everybody has a different goals, different paths. And for the properties I'm looking for, I'm pretty transparent with my clients that I'm looking for this specific type of property. And like 99% of the time it doesn't match their criteria. So so investor focused realtor 100% that has done it themselves. They
Yeah.
can be investor focused, but if they haven't been through it themselves, it's very hard to understand like from the
Mhm.
investor mindset. So
Completely. I find it's always mind-boggling that sometimes as investors we actually have to educate the broker on, about certain things, about how to look at the property or certain things that we see, and it always drives me nuts. I'm like, oh, I feel like I could do your job,
yeah,
but yeah.
it's true. It is true. It's like you got to speak the same language. You know a real estate investor when you see one. So it's
Mhm.
yeah, it's hard to that you need somebody to help you filter those properties. Like you need an expert in that area. So they definitely have to invest themselves.
Mhm. So, if you don't mind sharing, what kind of properties are you looking for as an investor yourself?
Yeah, so right now, I started off with smaller multifamilies and I did a duplex conversion, and right now I'm transitioning into the larger multifamily, so 20 plus units. So I'm looking at off-market opportunities over here and potentially partnering with some people to secure those deals.
Okay, good. So 20 plus units. And what's the inventory like? Because in Quebec, we have a lot of multifamily. Again, I don't know really what it's like at all in Ontario, even less in Windsor. So are there even buildings, or are there really like 12 of them in town?
There's a lot of multifamilies here in Windsor. A lot of them are concentrated in like the Walkerville area. The issue is a lot of them aren't up for sale. So
Yeah.
you don't see too many on the MLS. like my team, we have a lot of the multifamily listings up right now. And we also have some pocket listings as well. So like for me personally, the type of properties I'm looking for, they don't pop up on the MLS often. So I have to search for those myself off market and do that. But
Mhm.
yeah, inventory on MLS is low. There are a lot of multifamilies in Windsor though.
Okay. So you and your team prospect a lot?
My team, like for multifamilies, you mean?
Yeah.
Like for listings? People normally come to us. Like we, like I have a social media following, so if we have if people are looking for an agent for their multifamily listing, they normally find me on Instagram. And then obviously we have a database of over 2,000 investors that we keep in touch with for newsletters. So I don't um I don't traditionally prospect. I have systems in place to consistently reach out to clients, and they come to us when they're ready
Mhm.
to buy or sell, and it's been
Okay,
working
so
well.
so now I'm gonna go in and dive into it, but you have a big social media presence, but sometimes the owners of those buildings, they certainly aren't scrolling on Instagram because they're 65-year-old people. So how do you go about connecting with this kind of owner?
You'd be surprised, actually. There's an older audience coming to Instagram and even TikTok. Like I connected with a multifamily developer on TikTok, and he's like 50 something years old, and we're taking on some of his listings here. So it's you'd be surprised. Like people think that the older generation isn't on there, but they are. They're watching. So the majority, like literally 95% of my clientele is all from social media.
Okay.
And then obviously, like it builds credibility, word of mouth gets around, people, send people over to me. And then I do run like the Windsor REI social events over here, so the largest real estate investor networking event. So that builds credibility and it gets, a lot of the investors out. But I don't think I don't get too many clients from that. It's more like a service for my current clients so they can, network with other investors and increase their portfolio there.
Yeah, and the community is super important in what we do as real estate investors. It is a people business. Whether we're looking for tenants, we're financing, we're looking for a contractor, like whatever it is, we're always looking for people. So, how has the this community? How do you build it, and how has it been helping you?
Yeah, so I basically started doing videos on TikTok. I started off with TikTok and YouTube about real estate investing, like what's going on in the real estate market. And I made sure that I provided value and a lot of information in a short time. And I found that that was missing in the Ontario and the Windsor market. When people watch my videos, they always get like some sort of great information and they learn a lot. Um, so that's basically like how I built the following. And I had the social media up and running, and then I started my real estate investor networking event, would advertise it on my social platforms, and got a lot
Yeah.
of people out there. And we got a Facebook group for like 1,300 members right now, and it's growing steadily.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah, because it really does help in every way. In some ways, I kind of did the same thing with the podcast, which started as a game to be able to share and connect with people, and now
Right.
it's a lot more than that. So I do understand and realize the importance of spending time and talking to people and all that because it really does bring a lot further down the road.
Absolutely, yeah. The social media, it's like having a bunch of clones of yourself talking to thousands of people while you're sleeping. So networking is super, super important in this field.
It's all right.
Mhm.
It's all right. And so so you said you're transitioning now to looking for some larger properties, so 22 plus. When we're gonna do a follow-up episode 3 years from now, what is Milena gonna look like and be doing?
Oh, I love this question. So I'm starting a realtor mentorship program. So I do want to be like one of the largest realtor mentors for EXP here in Ontario. I grew my team fairly quickly. Like I only started this about a year and a half ago, and I already got, a realtor team, the largest event here in Windsor, and a large social media following for Windsor. So I want to help teach people how to do that in other cities. on top of that, I definitely want to reach the 50 plus unit mark in 3 years. And yeah, just keep growing the team in Windsor. So 10 members and a nice office space. So that's kind of I have it written down. I'm glad you asked this question. So yeah, that's my goals for the next 3 years.
Good. Well, we will all wish it to you. It's important to have a big, wide vision and an audacious goal. So we can definitely come back. And I was going to say, even maybe before 3 years, you'll always be welcome on the podcast. And I look forward to meeting you at some point. I'll come down to Ontario. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as Windsor. You might have to come up a bit, but I'm sure we'll meet in the near future.
We can meet in the middle, like somewhere around Toronto or something. Yeah,
Fair
we'll
enough.
compromise.
Fair enough. Thank you very much for your participation today, Milena. It's been a real pleasure, and it's always fun to talk to brokers and people who are very active in other places in the country because I find there's similarities yet a lot of differences. So it's good to get an overall feel of the land and the environment and climate out there.
Thank you for having me on. It's always nice talking to you. I'm glad you reached out to me, and yeah, well, I'm sure we'll stay in touch in the future here.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for following us today. Again, please share this episode with a friend who could benefit from this conversation, especially if they're in Ontario, especially if they're in Windsor. And Milena, if people want to know more about you, what's the best way to get in touch?
They can like Google my name, Milena Simsic. They can reach out to me on Instagram. I got my contact info everywhere there. So Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, wherever. I'm all over the place. Just feel free to send a message.
There you go. So if you have any questions, please reach out to Milena. And in the meantime, keep researching your market, keep making offers, and get into the action. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you next week.